So I'd like to show you how to increase, that is, add a stitch to your knitting. There are lots of reasons why you'd want to do this when you're knitting and you're shaping something like a sleeve, for instance. You're going to start out with a smaller circumference, and then you have to increase that circumference so that it's big enough to get to your underarm. So when you're increasing, I'm going to just go ahead and knit this first stitch. And then I'm going to take, again, there are a lot of ways of doing this. This is what I usually do. I take the yarn that's going across. So in other words, this is the yarn that's going across from the previous row. And I'll just insert the needle here and then pull the yarn through there. So I made kind of a new stitch where there wasn't one before. And then I can go ahead and continue to knit. And at this point, I'm going to have, well, let's see, I'll do that again. All right, so I knit something, and I've got, you can see, here is the yarn that's going across from the previous row in between the stitches. So I'm going to go in there and pretend it's a stitch and pull the yarn through. So now I've got an extra stitch in there. And then I can continue knitting. Just going to finish this row so I can show you. Now, for the most part, you're not going to be increasing more than one stitch at a time. You probably will only be increasing one stitch at a time, like it might say increase, one stitch every other row or something like that. So now I have, instead of 11 stitches, I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 13 stitches on here. So then when I continue knitting, I'll just knit across the ones that I increased. And look at it, and you can see it does form a little bit of a break in the pattern. So you need to kind of decide where you're going to have that break. I had it between the second and the third stitch. You can do it between the first and the second stitch. When you increase, there is going to be a little bit of a break in there. Okay, so when you want to decrease, there's a couple of ways of doing that. One way is to just knit 2 stitches together. So this is where you're only decreasing 1 stitch at a time. So, and you would decrease for a variety of shaping reasons. So now, when I'm inserting my needle, I'm going to insert them through 2 stitches at the same time. And then go ahead and bring the yarn through. Grab that yarn. And you can see now I've just decreased by 1 stitch. So I'm going to knit a little further. And then this is the area where I increased the second one. So again, I'm going to do this. I'm going to knit through 2 stitches at the same time. So here you can see where we increased twice and then we decreased twice. So then the other thing is when you're done knitting, you want to find a way of casting off the stitches. So here's a sample of the casting off, and I will show you how to do that. The way to do that is to knit 2 stitches, and then while you have the second stitch on there, you're going to take the first stitch and pull it over the second stitch and bring the second stitch through. So you had 2 stitches, now you just have 1. So we're going to do that again. We're going to knit this stitch and take the previous stitch and pull it over the second stitch. And you can see that by doing this, by going along the top, I'm looping through all those stitches so that I have a finished edge. So knit again, bring this the first stitch over the second one, bring it through. Sorry. Just want to make sure I get a clean yarn in here where I don't have pieces of it. And then when I get to the last loop, I just open it up and put the whole ball of yarn or skein through it and pull it closed. And that's the finished edge.